I'm Maryann Lenhart, and I'm an education business expert with Sexy Hair. And I'm here today to tell you a little bit about our SimCore tool, which means structure in motion. And it's the format of how we construct all of our haircuts for teaching and when we're behind the chair, when we're doing our haircuts and everything. I'm going to be showing you a little bit of things on my model here today too. So one of the things that I wanted to let you know about is that we always start all of our haircuts kind of with the same profile cut breakdown of the way that we cut hair. One of the first sections that we do is our fringe section, also known as the front. So the way that we find that is we put our comb up here if we want to, or sometimes we just always know where it's at. And we're going to come down to the corner of her eyebrow. And we're going to section that off. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to take from that section again and bring it over to the corner of this eyebrow. And I freshly shampooed her with my big sexy shampoo and conditioner so that she'll have lots of fullness and body when I'm done. And then I put some argan oil in her from our healthy collection. Now I'm going to twist this up out of the way for now. And this is our front or fringe section. Next we're going to go find the top. So the way that we find the top is kind of basically the same thing where the comb leaves the head around this whole crown section. We're going to pull this all up to the top. And this will be our top section. Now these are 5 basic sections that we start all of our haircuts with. Now we also have subsections that we'll talk about, and they'll be in each one of the main sections. So we just don't use 5 sections. We end up coming up with a bunch more. So we'll bring this around on this side also to meet the back. And this is our top section. So I'm going to pull this up out of the way and have it ready for later too. Then we have 2 side sections. And the way that we find those is we kind of come to this crown area where we started and we pull down to the base of the back of the ear. So I'm just going to twist this forward, kind of move it out of the way, and then I'm going to do the same with the other side. Luckily with mannequins we can kind of move them around and show you how to do things really easy. So I'm going to clip that one up out of the way too. So as you can see now, I have my front section, my top section, my left side, my right side, and my back section, also known as the nape. Now, once we have those 5 pieces broken down, we can get into the basics of the SimCore tool, our structure and motion way of cutting hair. Now, we have 5 basic movements that we use in the Sim, and the first one that we always talk about is our elevation. Now, you know from cutting hair that we're always talking about elevations, and what we do is I'm going to take this little section here in the front side so that I can kind of point out what I'm talking about for elevation. Well, you know that when hair hangs straight down, that's called 0 elevation. And then anything that we bring straight out at the right angle is considered 90 degrees. Then if another common angle that we use a lot is our 45-degree angle. So that would be halfway between the 0 mark and the 90 mark. So that would come down to about right here. Then we have coming up halfway between 90 and all the way to the top is considered 135. And then all the way to the top is considered 180. Well, once we go past that 180 mark, we're not talking elevation anymore. We're talking about over direction because we're going over the head shape. So when we're talking over direction, what we're doing is we're going to bring that hair straight up and we're going to pull it over. whatever section that we're going to be working on. Say we want to leave a lot of length and a lot of fullness around this bottom edge, we might want to do some over direction. Well, if I bring this, I can bring this all the way over. I can bring something from the back all the way to the front, or something from the front all the way to the back. It doesn't matter what I want to do, but as long as I'm pulling it over the head, that's considered over direction. And if I trim that off, then I'm going to end up with a lot of hair down here yet, and I'm not going to lose a lot of that length. Then the other thing we have is our cutting angle. That is also known as where we have our finger. Our finger, or our cutting angle, is where the hair is going to be removed. So say I talk about doing 90 degrees, and I'm bringing it out like this, and where I'm cutting it off, that is called our finger angle, or our cutting angle. Then we have lateral direction, and that is where we're moving the hair from side to side, and wherever we want length, that's where we're going to go the opposite direction. So say we want length to swing down towards the front, we can bring this back in this lateral direction towards the back. We can trim that off, and we're going to have the hair back here will be shorter and the hair down here will be longer. So this will swing down and give us a real pretty shape coming down towards the front of the haircut. Now if we want like some little bit of a soft fringe coming around her chin to her length like here, then we would go just the opposite direction of that. And we'd come here and we'd trim that off, and then when that drops, we'd have our longer length back here and our shorter length up here. So that's what we mean by lateral direction. Then we have our in and out movement, and that determines where our length and our width will be. So we're talking in and out, this like this. Okay, so now that was the 5 basic movements of sim. Now let's go over how we cut the hair. We use a technique called incising, and that's where we hold our shears with our thumb and our ring finger, and we take our thumb and just barely put it in our thumb area, and our ring finger, that can just barely be in there too. And what we're going to do is we're only going to move our thumb, and we're only going to be cutting with the back of our shears. This is called incising, and we can move our hand in any direction that we want to do incising, but we're always going to be cutting with the back of the shears. This gives us very fluid movement so that we can cut hair and give it lots of texture and keep moving along with the haircut, and it saves a lot of time, and we get a lot of things done at the same time. We're cutting, we're creating softness, textures, and everything else that we want to do with that. Then, when we're doing that, we only want to use subtle pressure with our thumb, and that's the only thing that we're going to move is just our thumb. And then we're going to have a cutting down motion. And the other thing that we do with sim, before I get to that point, is I want to tell you that we use our body as our main tool. So we use a lot of movement where we bend down at our knees, and if we're going to be cutting down, we always have our left foot forward, and then we squat and move in towards the head. That way we're not bending over the person or having to strain or move in different funny directions. When we're cutting down, we're going to have our left foot forward, and our finger angle is going to be up like this. And then our fingers, we're going to create, when we cut down, we're going to create softness and flatness. So say I want to have just some real soft layers just down here at the bottom, and I don't want a lot of volume, I might want to cut this down so I can bring this up. And a lot of times we use this in the nape, so I think I'll take like a little section down here in the nape and show you. This would be a subsection of our back section, and I would cut this with my fingers up. My left foot is forward, I'm squatted down so that I'm bringing my eye level down to where I can see. This way I can look around all different directions that I want to and see where I want to cut. And then my hand, I'm going to be cutting between the head and the fingers. So I'm going to be opening up my shears, my palm is going to be facing the head, and I'm going to be opening up my shears and just cutting with the back of those shears, doing that incising while I'm pulling down at the same time. That's why we're always doing movement while we're cutting. We're not just picking it up and going snap, picking it up and going snap. We're always creating movement with our haircuts, so we're always moving the hair and the shears at the same time. That way we can move all over the head and create beautiful haircuts with ease and fullness and lots of texture. Then we have our cutting up, which is going to give us nice, soft, rounded layers and lots of fullness. And on this one, then we're going to put our right foot forward this time, and we're going to squat down at our knees again so that we're using the stronger part of our body for the strength of doing our haircuts. And we don't get fatigued, and we can work a lot longer work day and a longer lifetime as hairdressers. And we're going to take our left hair, I'm going to turn her a little bit like this. When we're cutting down, our right foot is forward and our cutting hand is down, pointing down. And what we're going to do is this time our back of our hand is going to be facing the head, and our shears are going to be our palm is going to be pointing to our left control hand, and we're going to be cutting up. So say we want some real soft, nice layers here, and this is our guide where we want to cut from. So I can cut at that back, and as the hair drops, and if it starts to buckle here, I can comb this up and begin again, and then I can do that as much as I want to. So see how I was able to do all that fun movement from all the way down here all the way up to here, and all in one sweep. So I was able to cut, incise, all the way up to there. Or if I don't need to go all the way up to there, that's okay too. But you can see how we have fluid movement because we're moving our hair and our shears and our control hand all at the same time. So we create really fun texture. That incising gives like a little stair-step look, so we already have texture, so we don't have to go back in and necessarily texture afterwards unless we're going for a particular look, which I'll go over with something with you in a minute. Then we have our diagonal cutting. Now this is where we want to blend one area to another area. And so for instance, I have like a little area here where I want to maybe have her layers come around her chin down. I'll have a diagonal cutting where I will cut from where my guide is here down to here, and I'll just connect this to this point down here, and that's what's considered our diagonal cutting. Then we also have connected disconnection. Now this is a very interesting concept because it gives us lots of flow and movement inside the haircut. That's a great thing to use. We're actually using a guide from somewhere else in the haircut, and so say I want to drop that down and just leave that out for now, and I want like a little bit of texture inside of here. I would bring this out, and I'm going to find a guide or a pictured guide that I had from up here. This is later on, usually after you've done the whole haircut. And I have my right foot forward and my control hand down like I was talking about earlier. And I have my shears up with my palm, this time to the head. And I'm going to pick a guide from up here, and I'm going to come in, and I'm going to start, and I'm going to move up and down, and I'm going to keep trimming, just inching a little bit at a time, all the way down to 0. And what that'll do, that'll give us some inside movement for lots of creative texture. And that's a really cool thing to do, to get lots of movement and volume in through